I still can't believe it happened. I mean, it's almost like I was in a bad dream, but it wasn't. It was real. The worst part? I didn't even see it coming. Or at least I thought I didn't. Emily and I have been together for almost a decade. 8 years, 5 of them married. We had everything, or at least I thought we did. A house, stable jobs, vacations that looked perfect on Instagram. We were the couple everyone else looked at and thought, they've got it all. We even joked about starting a family soon. I mean, everything was set up, right? Lately, I'd been sensing something wasn't right. She was acting distant. Nothing obvious, just subtle stuff that started to eat at me. Her late nights at the office started becoming routine. It was always urgent work or deadlines to meet. But she always had time to take long calls from her girlfriends or talk to her mom, so I didn't think much of it. That's until the night that completely changed everything. It was supposed to be a normal company dinner. You know the kind. Awkward small talk, endless rounds of drinks, and forced smiles from people you'd never hang out with if you didn't have to. But Emily was excited about it. She'd been talking about it all week, telling me how much she was looking forward to it. It's going to be good for my career, she said. A great opportunity to network, she said. So, when the day came, I didn't think anything of it when she insisted I come along to support her. I was in my element at those types of events, mingling and making the best of it. But Emily, on the other hand, wasn't as engaged. She kept to herself a lot, hanging with the people from her department, smiling but not quite there, and I noticed it. Maybe I was imagining things, but it was like she was pulling away from me in front of everyone. The night wore on, and I noticed the way she was laughing with one guy in particular. Let's call him Steve. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe he was just the work husband type, joking around and being friendly. But something about his presence bugged me. There was this energy around them that felt a little too comfortable. I don't know why, but I kept watching them. I could feel my stomach tightening every time they shared a laugh, every time she touched his arm. Then came the moment I never expected, the moment everything unraveled. I had stepped away from the crowd to grab another drink when I turned around and saw it. Right there, in front of everyone, Emily was kissing Steve. Full on, lips pressed together, like it was the most normal thing in the world. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I froze. I don't even remember breathing for a second. I was too shocked to process it. Time seemed to stop. In that moment, every little doubt I'd been pushing down, every strange look, every unreturned text, every unexplained late night, it all rushed in, slapping me in the face like cold water. I couldn't move. My legs were shaking. But I had to do something. I wasn't just going to stand there like an idiot. I don't remember walking over to them, but suddenly I was right there. They hadn't noticed me yet. Steve was still grinning like a jackass, and Emily, she looked like she'd just seen a ghost when she finally met my eyes. There was a moment of complete silence, and I swear, the room seemed to freeze around us. Then I found my voice. "You just destroyed our marriage." Her face went pale. She stood up straight, and I could see panic flicker across her features. But then, just as quickly, she did something I wasn't expecting. She turned to me, looked me right in the eyes and said, "You're mistaken." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It was just a flat, cold denial. "You're mistaken." Those 3 words cut through me like nothing else. It wasn't the apology I thought I'd hear. It wasn't even an explanation. It was like she was brushing it off as if it didn't matter. As if the truth didn't even matter anymore. And that's when it hit me harder than anything else. She didn't care. Not about me, not about us. She didn't even have the decency to be ashamed. The world around me was spinning. I felt like I couldn't breathe, but I somehow managed to take a step back. I wanted to shout, to ask her how long this had been going on, to tell her how much she'd hurt me. But instead, I just turned and walked away. I don't even know where I went. I think I just needed to get out of there. Away from her, away from him. It was too much. I don't know what hurt more, the kiss I saw or her complete lack of remorse. I spent the next few hours in a daze, not knowing what to do with myself. I couldn't even go home. Not like this. So, I wandered around the city, trying to find some air to breathe. The whole thing felt like an out-of-body experience. How could Emily, my Emily, do this to me? I'm not an emotional guy, at least not publicly. I've always been the one to keep it together, to be calm and collected, especially in front of others. But that night, couldn't. I felt like I was falling apart, like I was losing everything. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. I must have dialed her number 100 times. The texts I sent were a mixture of anger and confusion. Nothing. It was like she wasn't even trying to fix it, to explain herself, to apologize. Just nothing. Her response, the "you're mistaken," kept echoing in my head. It wasn't a mistake, though. I'd seen what I saw, and deep down, I knew there was more to the story than she was letting on. But I also knew something else. I wasn't ready to hear it from her just yet. I needed time. I needed space. I needed to think. The next morning, I came home, and Emily was already there. She was acting normal, like nothing had happened. She didn't even mention the dinner, didn't even ask where I had gone after storming out. The fact that she acted like everything was fine, it pissed me off, but I kept my cool. I didn't want to explode on her just yet. I had a plan. I needed answers. So, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I started looking through her things. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I needed to know. I needed to see if there was something, anything, that would make sense of this mess. It didn't take long. Her phone was there, sitting on the counter, unlocked and ready. I didn't feel proud of it, but I picked it up. And that's when I found it. It wasn't a message from Steve. It was a thread, a conversation from months ago. The tone of their messages wasn't like a friendship. No, it was intimate. The kind of words you use when you're hiding something. The last message was sent that night, just before the dinner, with a phrase that made my stomach drop. "I'll see you tonight. Don't forget the surprise." I read it over and over again, trying to process what I was seeing. It hit me then. This wasn't just a mistake. This was planned, premeditated. And for months I had been too blind or too naive to notice the signs. I confronted her the same day. She was caught off guard when I showed her the messages. She tried to deny it at first, of course, said it was nothing, that it was just a misunderstanding. But I was done listening to the lies. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, staring her down. "This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't some random slip-up. This was your choice." She looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something different in her eyes. Fear. Not guilt. Fear. She was afraid of the truth coming out, of what it meant for her. But then, like a switch had been flipped, she turned defensive. "You're being irrational. This isn't what you think it is." Her words were frantic, but they didn't shake me. Not anymore. I was done trying to make sense of her excuses. "I'm not irrational, Emily. I'm just not an idiot." The silence between us was thick with anger and disappointment. I realized something. I wasn't angry with her anymore. I was angry with myself, for not seeing the signs, for being so trusting, for ignoring what my gut was telling me. The hurt, the betrayal, the shock. It wasn't something I could just let slide. But I still hadn't decided what to do next. The revenge part? It wasn't just about getting back at her. It wasn't about some grand, dramatic act. It was about me reclaiming control of my life. It was about showing her, showing both of them, that they couldn't just tear my world apart and expect me to stay silent. A few days passed before I made a decision. I wasn't going to play the victim. I wasn't going to cry or beg for answers. Instead, I decided to do something that would hit harder than any argument. Something that would make them both understand exactly what they'd done. It took some time, but I got in touch with Steve's wife. I'd heard about her before. Her name came up in casual conversations when Emily was talking about the office. She was a stay-at-home mom, always busy with the kids, always dealing with her own stuff. I found her contact through mutual friends and reached out. I wasn't sure what to expect, but when she responded, I knew I'd made the right choice. We met in person a few days later. She didn't seem like the kind of woman who would cause a scene or get involved in drama. But she listened. I told her everything. What I saw at the dinner, the messages I found, the history I uncovered. It was brutal. I didn't want to hurt her, but she deserved to know the truth. She was silent for a long time and then, well, she cried. She cried for herself, for her family, for the betrayal, and for a second I felt bad. But then I remembered everything Emily had said to me, everything she had done, and I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I wasn't the only one who was going to feel this. Steve wasn't going to get away with it. The next weekend, Emily had planned a small dinner for us, just the two of us, to try and talk things through. I had no intention of sitting there and letting her pretend everything could go back to normal. Instead, I invited Steve's wife. And when Emily opened the door, her face fell when she saw who was standing next to me. The look in her eyes, shock, then guilt, then denial, was everything I needed. I didn't need to say anything. The tension in the room spoke for itself. "I think we need to talk," I said, as her lover's wife stood beside me. The aftermath of everything was a whirlwind. Emily tried to explain herself, but the damage was done. I wasn't interested in hearing her excuses anymore. I had taken my power back. In a strange way, I felt free. Free from the lies. Free from the deception. I'm still figuring out what comes next. Right now, it's about healing, about regaining trust. Not just in others, but in myself. This whole situation taught me a hard lesson. Trust your gut, and don't ignore the red flags. But it also taught me that I'm stronger than I thought. As for Emily, well, she's still in the picture, but things will never be the same. Maybe that's for the best. Maybe I'll move on. But one thing is for sure. I won't let anyone treat me like I'm disposable ever again.